next one up, we have Alex Levy from Atmo. If you want to make your way up here, that'd be fantastic. It's not quite space, but it's, I think, one of the more exciting applications of AI, really, that we've seen over the last year, and you guys have made so much progress so fast. So let me start playing this. Thank you so much for coming. The stage is yours. You even brought a leaflet. That's amazing. Come on up here, Alex.
Hello, friends. It's great to see so many of you. I'm picking up on a talk that our CTO, Johan Mate, who's in the audience today, first introduced actually a year ago here at Foresight, which is a question of whether we're entering a period in humanity's capabilities where we have the potential to do something as bold as ending hurricane season. Hurricanes seem like an inevitable fixture of life, a terrible price that's visited on us year after year, that seems to get more intense and severe every year. Do we have the potential to change that, and what might that look like? In this brief talk, we're going to talk about 3 topics: why you might want to stop hurricanes or lessen their destructive potential, what doesn't work in trying to do that, and what could work, and how we're working towards building that at our group called Atmo. We have a great passion and interest in this because we are a builder and operator of AI systems for the atmosphere. Many of you might know us starting from our work a few years ago here in San Francisco, where we developed and released the most detailed weather forecasts in the United States, first for San Francisco. Again, this is our CTO, Johan, as well, showing that. And in the intervening years, as Allison mentioned in her very kind intro, we have gone from predicting weather with great detail and accuracy at the level of a city to the level of entire sovereign countries on the planet using deep learning neural networks. Most recently here in the Philippines, where Atmo is building and operating a new national forecasting model, which is 10 times the prior resolution and runs 45,000 times faster than the prior best models. And we're doing this, of course, at the scale of the planet and with incredible partners, such as heads of state, like President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who personally is supporting this project. So, why stop hurricanes? What's our motivation for doing this? Well, let's take an example. Cast your mind back to New Orleans, 2005. Vibrant, thriving, alive, like so many places that are vulnerable to extreme weather. An incredibly fun place to hang out, just absolutely bustling with life. This is Mardi Gras in that year. A little bit later that year, this was the final bulletin from the National Weather Service, issued just a day before Hurricane Katrina, which I'd just like to read an excerpt. Devastating damage expected. Hurricane Katrina, a most powerful hurricane. The area will be uninhabitable for weeks, perhaps longer. At least 1/2 of well-constructed homes will be severely damaged or destroyed. All windows will blow out. Airborne debris will be widespread, including household appliances and even light vehicles. Persons exposed to the wind will face certain death if struck. The vast majority of trees will be snapped. Water shortages will make human suffering incredible by modern standards. Seeing it on the page like this really hits me. And sure enough, a few days later, this is a photo of President Bush at the time looking out Air Force One onto the scene, and this is the second photo the photographer took right after. He looks helpless because he is helpless. Humanity is helpless in dealing with the question of extreme weather. It happens, and today there's very little that we can do about it. The toll of this is extremely high and very motivating. Over 1 million people displaced, 800,000 homes destroyed, a total cost of over $200 billion. That's more than the GDP of 140 countries in this one event. So there's a lot to do here. So the question as you look at this playback of Hurricane Katrina is its path inevitable? Its rapid intensification, its strong right hook, the way at the last moment it becomes far, far stronger and heads to New Orleans, is this inevitable? And chaos theory tells us very simply that the answer is no. Hurricane Katrina might not have happened this way. And in fact, there are physically plausible alternative scenarios in which it didn't, many of them. In fact, the same thing that makes it hard to predict the weather means also potentially that small interventions can later control the weather with the right simulation. So what doesn't work to do that? Obviously, this is something that has enticed people for many decades. Well, there have been many projects over the years. This is a picture from Project Storm Fury, an over decade-long project between the Air Force and the Department of Commerce in order to disrupt the formation of hurricanes. It's extensively documented online, even has a Wikipedia page. And it wasn't successful, largely because the interventions happened once the hurricane was already set up and in place, a huge amount of latent energy. Others have proposed, of course, to nuke hurricanes. This is a very popular proposal. If you search on YouTube, you can find a great range of videos about nuking hurricanes. And besides being quite dangerous, actually, the good news is this doesn't work at all. And the reason is there's between 4 and 6 orders of magnitude more energy in a hurricane than the largest nuclear weapon ever made. It appears that harnessing chaos and sensitive dependence for good is the only viable solution, intervening very, very early with extremely good models that have the power to perturb in ways that get you leverage through time. And humanity now has a very large range of physical interventions to look at to try to develop simulations based upon, such as marine cloud brightening, deep sea bubblers, rain and cloud seeding, solar radiation management, and drones get better each year. But the key problem seems to be when, where, and how to use them to achieve a minimum effective dose to actually make a difference. The limiting factor is, in fact, the speed and accuracy of computational fluid dynamics simulations. Before AI meteorology, worldwide weather forecasts required multi-billion-dollar supercomputers and could recompute a world model in 4 or 6 hours. What we're going to try to do here is make thousands of simulations and find the parts of the distribution where a tiny butterfly did make a difference in the outcome. If you're taking 6 hours to resimulate the world, the event has long since passed by the time you found the solution. So, what could work, and how are we going to go about building it? Well, at Atmo, we've been spending the last several years developing and operating advanced AI forecasting models for militaries, for governments, for large enterprises around the world. And we're now developing an end-to-end model for hurricane prevention with AI. We call it RLHF. You've heard of reinforcement learning through human feedback. This is reinforcement learning through hurricane feedback. The key factors that the model needs to look at the outset, of course, are the basic things that you would expect. The whole space of paths, possible landfall locations and their potential impacts, the potential for rapid intensification. And our goal is to weaken and steer those hurricanes with tiny interventions which are both economical and likely to have a positive effect. The key technical enabler here are adjoint models and auto-differentiation for the atmosphere. Models that allow us to determine what perturbation in the input is necessary to get to the preferred output state. And we're doing this by extending Atmo's fine-tuned models across regions such as the Philippines. You can see the previous models down here, and then the Atmo models at 10 times the resolution, running 45,000 times faster, in other words, in just a few seconds. And so this system is going to involve a few key components that we'd like to outline today, but we're going to be elaborating in the coming months. First, the early detection, path and intensity forecasting, a multi-scale modeling framework that lets you tie together local phenomena with the path of the hurricane, better simulations of the intervention microphysics so we know how a particular physical intervention is going to bubble up into a larger phenomena. Multi-objective optimization, where we balance the potential upsides of the interventions with also other considerations like regulations and international boundaries. Enhanced integration of real-time sensors for calibration, and a feedback and learning loop that lets this model get better and better over time. Ultimately, the following will happen. We'll early detect far earlier with better AI meteorology models the formation of a cyclone. We'll confirm its formation, make detailed plans as to potential interventions, execute those interventions, continuously monitor and adjust them to make sure they're doing what is predicted, resolve and analyze the event, and ultimately learn and optimize further. We started this talk by looking at Hurricane Katrina, one of the most memorable and destructive events in US history. But it doesn't have to be like this. With the potential to end hurricane season with AI meteorology, we can potentially look forward to a future more like this one. And that's something we're incredibly passionate about at Atmo. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you guys already asked a question. I want to get to someone who hasn't asked a question yet.
Thanks for your talk. As someone who lives in Puerto Rico, hurricanes are always on my mind. Very important. I'm curious, how is your legal team thinking about liability? If you steer the hurricane away from one city and it hits another city, will the insurance refuse to pay those people out? Will they go after you? How is your legal team thinking about that?
We don't know yet. It's a hard problem. Consider, for example, the Asia Pacific region. You know, Philippines is one of our biggest partners at Atmo. They get on average 20 to 22 typhoons a year in their territorial waters. And as you look at that area, it's sort of like a bowling alley. If you're not hitting Manila, who are you hitting? Is it Taipei? Is it Jakarta? Is it Singapore? Depending on where you're sending the thing. There's no easy answer to that. I think at the same time, it's worth noting that catastrophic weather in the last year cost between $400 and $600 billion in direct payouts. And so that's a lot of financial interest and a lot of human interest on the side of resolving those problems in the shared understanding that lowering the overall destructive load is in the interests of everyone. But simulation frameworks like what we're describing here are going to be how those questions are really litigated. So if you have a certain proposal and perhaps another party that is counter to that proposal would like to see the effect of your simulation, systems like the ones that we develop are going to be used not just to analyze maybe the optimal path, but the one that also resolves those optimization criteria.
Thank you so much, Alex. Awesome.
Thank you very much.